Now the fun begins.
Budget.
Stop! You violated the law.
What is going on, everybody, and welcome to episode 2 of Bonus Accessories Game Pass Gamecast. I am your host, Travis White, known as Travlis on most internet platforms. You can find me at Travlis on Xbox Live, where I'm going to be playing a lot of stuff, but we'll get into that in a minute. Let me introduce my co-hosts. First, we're going to go with the one, the only, Mike P-Pack, Toy Soldier. Mike, what's going on? How you been, man?
Oh, just been chilling, man. Just doing my thing, living my life. Nothing crazy.
Hell yeah, nothing wrong with that. What have you been playing? You've been playing more Halo still?
Always. We just got the tournament announcement that they're having another Halo 3 tournament in Atlantic City over September. I think the weekend is going to be 6, 7, 8 there in Atlantic City. And it's only a 5.5 hour drive. So getting back to the roots and driving to an event's going to be a really fun time. So I'm excited for that.
Go ahead and talk about that a little bit, especially coming off the heels of our debut episode covering MCC. And I mean, Christ, the first half of the podcast talks about multiplayer and all your experiences with that. Why don't you plug that event a little bit just so we can get that out there, and talk about what you're excited for, with this, Atlantic City event that we're getting for the first time in forever.
Absolutely, yeah. So it's actually going to be run by UGC, which they've pretty much been dedicated to Halo as a game, and whether it be Halo 5 or Halo Master Chief Collection, they've been dedicated as a tournament provider, trying to revive this game from the depths of hell, I guess, if you want to say it that way. They've been running like all the qualifiers, like even for Dallas, like the qualifying tournaments that they used as points for seeding for Dallas. UGC's been running it, and they came out here just literally a few days ago, and it's going to be at the Bally's Atlantic City Hotel and Casino right there on the I guess it's like in the strip of Atlantic City, if you will. Nice. And so we're pumped. It says that there's a $50,000 prize pool, which is a little light, but I mean,
hey, 50 grand's 50 grand, man.
Granted, what we're working with, we'll take it.
Very true.
So we're playing it on MCC on Xbox One, and then it's a double elimination tournament, and it's going to be streaming on twitch.tv/UGC because it's a grassroots. They won't put it on the Halo channel. Probably host it. There's some different things happening there. Eventually, or evidently, they're going to have some side events, whether it's Halo 1 2v2, I think was discussed a little bit. So people might be playing Halo 1 2v2. It might be a Halo 5 2v2 like they're doing in London. I'm not 100% sure. That's all speculation. That hasn't been figured out yet. But yeah, just really excited for the opportunity to play Halo again. And we have another reason to play again, so I feel the fire burning in me again.
Hell yeah, man. I mean, that's basically what you were just talking about last episode, that you want to find this consistency of you have something to play for. There is a reason to play for consistently. And,
right.
You were even bringing up, like, your East Coast, in the U.S., that's your predominant player base. Like, that is
right
where you're getting a lot of the predominant competitive player base that you always talk about. So
absolutely. And yeah, I mean, it's just like UGC's just been great as a tournament organizer. They ran the first MCC or like Halo Classic after the update back in January in St. Louis. So, and like I said, I mean, they did all the qualifiers for Dallas. So they've been great to the Halo grassroots campaign and just trying to keep this game alive while we're waiting for the next installment and what happens. So just thankful for them and that they, continue to be dedicated to providing entertainment and tournaments for us to play in.
Hell yeah, man. Hell yeah. Well, that's great. Awesome. Good. I'm glad to hear that the Halo keeps on a pumping, on your end, man. That's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, but Mike isn't here by himself. As always, we kick it over to our other co-host, the one, the only Marshy, Adam Marsh. Adam, how's it going, and what the hell have you been playing?
Good evening.
I have an idea of what you've been playing, though, but I want to hear from you. I want to hear from you.
He knows. Travis knows because he's been stumped by some of my latest Mario Maker 2 creations. I've been really stuck into that, especially with some of my coworkers. Just this past weekend, we all went over to one of my coworkers' houses and just kind of sat around all making levels at the same time. And then as soon as one person was done, everyone else would go play it. And we were just kind of on rotation there. It was a great time. I've also been stuck in some Fallout New Vegas. I've been replaying.
Ooh, shocker.
I know, right? It seems like every year I have to go back and play it again, even though it's been like several years since I beat it for the first time. I still keep coming back and finding new stuff that, I just missed before.
That's I agree. That's one of those games that, I mean, granted, not a Bethesda Game Studio developed Fallout game, but it's one of those open world games, and what makes me really excited for Outer Worlds coming out later this year, that it scratches that itch of it's a dense open world, but at the same time, you feel very close in terms of the narrative and the relationships you could make with the NPCs through the game and your character development. I think that's one thing that Fallout does great. I think Elder Scrolls did do it great to be seen, moving forward, but I think Fallout just does great with that.
Absolutely. Obsidian has never stopped making great RPGs.
No, so... On my end, though, like Adam was saying, getting stumped on some Mario Maker levels. Mario Maker dropped Friday, the same day we released Episode 1, Part 1 of our Halo MCC debut episode of the Game Pass Gamecast. You can catch that at youtube.com/bonusaccessory. But Mario Maker 2, that's kind of my first one. I dabbled in the first Mario Maker a little bit, didn't have a Wii U, but played it on 3DS a little bit. I never really got too into it, but I love the premise of it. Absolutely love it. That's one of those games I could watch people stream like all the time. I could just throw it up because it's always different. But I've been playing a lot of that, and I've actually finally, after talking and thinking about it for years and years, finally took the dive going into the Metal Gear Solid series for the first time ever. So it took fucking forever to get to play the first one. Which is kind of ridiculous if you ask me, how hard it is to play a game of that importance, I guess you want to say, to the video game industry, that it's that difficult to find and play it. It just should be easily accessible on, at this point, Xbox One, PS4, PC, whatever.
Oh boy, someday we got to have a talk about games preservation on the show.
100%, 100%. I agree. And I went on the PSN store, bought it on there for $10 because it was like, oh, you could transfer, or you could play it on PS3 or transfer it to your Vita or whatever. I'm like, okay, I have a PS3 somewhere. Gotta go fucking dig that out. But I was like, whatever, cool. Dig it out, find it, try to find it. Can't find it. I'm like, okay, whatever. I have a Vita. Maybe I could download it or something. I haven't fucking used it in forever. I got it for like $30 at one point, like off somebody, and me collecting games. I'm like, yeah, fuck it. But dug that shit out, tried to find it, couldn't download it. So I'm like, okay, now what the hell do I do? I already spent $10 on this thing. Tried getting an emulator of it on there. Wasn't really working. In a roundabout way, finally was able to get it on there, but it just took forever. So started playing that. I am liking the story. It feels very dated being the first one, but I did pick up the HD collection on 360 to play on backwards compatibility. So whenever that comes around, I feel like I'm probably going to like those ones a little more, just given the, modernization of the controls. So, but we'll see. Anyways, though, this is not about Metal Gear. This isn't about Mario Maker. This is about Game Pass. It's the Game Pass Gamecast on Bonus Accessory. So just to kick it off, I wanted to touch on a few new games that came to Game Pass as of right now. To be honest, I saw earlier today on Twitter that Game Pass will be dropping new games tomorrow, naturally, the day after we record. So I may go back and edit that in post and add those just to kind of, touch on them. Future Travis is going to squeeze in here real quick through the magic of the interwebs and tell you what exactly those new games are. In total, we have 8 games coming to Game Pass, starting with Middle-earth: Shadow of War, My Time at Portia, and Undertale dropping first and are out now. Shadow of War and My Time at Portia will both have their console and PC versions available through the service, with Undertale just being PC. After that, on July 11th, coming to Game Pass, we have Blazing Chrome, Dead Rising 4, Lego City Undercover, Time Spinner, and Unavowed. Out of those, Dead Rising 4 and Blazing Chrome will see both their console and PC releases available. Time Spinner and Unavowed just on PC, and rounding it off with Lego City Undercover just releasing on console. All right. There you have it. So, let's get back to listening to these beautiful bastards talk video games. And I could say that because this is currently only an audio-only podcast, so how the fuck do you know if we're ugly? Yeah, suck it, Trebek. That's right, gotta take our word for it. Okay, back to you, Pat Travis. But new games to Game Pass towards the end of the month of June here. We got Resident Evil Revelations, just the first one, I believe. Heard decent things about that. I actually got that on Switch for Christmas, like 2 Christmases ago. Never really played too much of it, but I do want to go back to it. This may be the opportunity to do that. The Rare Replay, which was pretty big, that has a ton of games on it. Just looking at the list there, they got both the Perfect Dark games. They got all of the, not all of, all the Banjo-Kazooie games, including Nuts and Bolts, the first one, Tooie, all of that jazz. Conker's Bad Fur Day, Viva Pinata, ton of different...
Hell yeah.
Battletoads was on there.
MLG Viva Pinata, baby. Let's get it.
Fuck yeah.
1v1 Viva Pinata, bitch.
Exactly. So, but there's a lot of good shit on there, and that's pretty big, I think, overall. So, it's there for you if you want to go back to it. I think that's more at home on Switch, but I think that's a different discussion at a different time. But we also got Torment Tides of Numenera, to be honest, I'm not sure. Numenera? I've actually never heard of that game, and I hear of a lot of games. But Adam, you fill me in.
Have you heard of Planescape Torment?
I have not.
Okay, that's another game made by, back in the day, I think they were still Black Isle. This was kind of a predecessor to Obsidian.
Oh, okay.
If my video game history memory does not fail me, they made Planescape Torment, which was set in like the Baldur's Gate kind of D&D fictional universe.
Okay.
And then Torment Tides of Numenera was their attempt to follow up on the spirit of that game without having the D&D like official IP type setting. So
interesting.
Yeah, it was a classic computer RPG, isometric style, the party-based, all that good stuff.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm not actually sure, if you ask me, like, that sounds definitely... I'm curious to see how that translates to console. I'm not sure if that's included in Game Pass's PC extension, but I feel like it would have to be. That seems like a soft toss win right there, personally. I mean, just thinking out loud, but... I don't know, we'll have to look into that. But it does sound dope. I mean, if it's on Game Pass, it's one of those things that... fuck it. It's included with your membership. Throw it on there. $10 a month, you get 300 plus games. I mean, hell, if it's 10 minutes and I don't like it, cool. But at least I give that development team 10 minutes of my time and a download. In this kind of modern age of game streaming and on-demand services, I'm sure that goes a long way.
Yeah, and just a correction from earlier. It wasn't Black Isle. It was In Exile Entertainment, which included Brian Fargo, who was one of the founders of Interplay, and they made the original Fallouts.
Gotcha. Mm-hmm. And that falls in line with In Exile, new Microsoft-owned studio. So, kind of already seeing the fruits of that start.
Wasteland 3 scheduled for next year, I think.
Yeah, to be honest, I'm not a big XCOM person, but that does look pretty good. I was excited about that. I liked the premise when I saw it at E3, so sounds cool. And then last game, Goat Simulator. I don't know what else to be said about Goat Simulator. It's a physics-based fuck around.
It kind of a comedy game.
Yeah, it's Goat Simulator. Yeah.
It's Goat Simulator. But yeah, that's everything that's new available to Game Pass. You can go on your Xbox One, PC, and download those right now. Once again, the catalog just keeps growing for this service, so it's really awesome to see. But like I said, naturally, new games announced tomorrow, of course, the day after we record, and it seems like there might be a few big titles included with that, but that's not why we're here. We're here for the one, the only, Gears of War. So, Gears of War, if you've been living under a rock for the past 13 odd years, I would definitely have to say it's probably Microsoft's second biggest franchise. Correct me if I'm wrong, you would think, comparative to Halo. I think Halo's the only other Microsoft franchise at this point that has more namesake, at least associated with Xbox.
I would agree.
But, I mean, it is one of the most stylized and influential, I would say, franchises, definitely in the cover shooter genre, really being kind of the, I think, forefront of that subcategory of game, or subgenre, I guess. But it's crazy to see where this franchise first came. And before we kind of, go into some topical questions, just to kind of give you a brief overview, if you haven't or aren't that familiar with Gears of War, it was first released on November 7th, 2006 on 360. Which is crazy. I still remember that shit just like it was yesterday. So
13 years ago, that's insane.
I could feel a gray hair sprouting just now.
Yeah, that's insane to think that Gears 1 came that far back. You know what I mean? It's insane.
Yeah, and I mean, it's still going strong today, especially what probably a lot of newer Xbox gamers don't realize is this wasn't the Coalition's series to begin with. This was made by Epic Games, the people who are now known for Fortnite and being the Fortnite brand. You know, the same people who made the Unreal Engine and for the longest time one of the biggest PC shooters, and then to Xbox, eventually Unreal Tournament series, one of the biggest FPS genres, arena shooters around. But it was a Epic Games developed, and it was really one of the first mainstream cover shooter games that kind of, I want to say, clicked with a lot of people on a casual level. Kind of a quick overview. Focused on a conflict between humanity, a subterranean reptile-like humanoid. They're known as the Locust Horde. They're kind of like Killer Croc from Batman. They're like big alligator.
Big burly, scaly dudes.
Yeah, like imagine like a snake.
It's unreal.
Imagine,
but like the game, like the primary like executive developer of this game, if you've ever seen pictures of him, like Marcus is almost a spitting image of this guy.
Oh my
like,
god, yeah.
This dude is huge. So
his name escapes me. I can't think of it. I always associate Gears of War with Cliff Bleszinski.
Right. But I forget what that other guy's name is. We might be able to find it before the end of the show and bring it up, but it's funny. Like this dude looks like Marcus Phoenix, man. It's hilarious.
Yeah, it's
the size of the guy and everything.
It's funny you bring that up. We're going to touch on that a little bit later with one of the topical questions that we bring up, but it is funny how it's one of those things of like art imitates life in some aspects that like who the hell knows if he even thought of like throwing that in there. He just thought of, oh, I'm going to start designing this, and it just happens like you take inspiration from things that you don't even think of naturally. But kind of diving into it, I want to throw this out here just to get the conversation started, because I think a lot of people associate, or at least long-term Xbox fans, or gamers mostly in their mid-20s now at this point, who are adult gamers. Do you think Gears of War had the best marketing campaign for a new IP in gaming history? Because I'm talking about the Mad World trailer. One of the most iconic game trailers in the world. Do you think that's like the best example of selling a new game series or a new franchise to people without really even giving any like true information on the game?
I mean, it to me, when I remember being a kid and I remember watching that original trailer, you know, where Marcus is running down the streets, Mad World's playing over top of it, and he makes the jump through the window and he runs into the like what turns out to be a corpser. You know, we learn it when playing the game, but at this time we had little to no information about what that creature was or what was happening there. As a younger kid at that point in time, that trailer absolutely spiked all the interest for me.
Oh, yeah.
Like it was unbelievable how simple yet beautiful the trailer was. And it kind of gave you this sense of, basically, it captured in essence what Gears of War was, what to expect from this game. And like a short 30-second little trailer that would be on commercials, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it was like a combination of this melancholy, like this just down-rotten feel of the world's crumbling beneath you, but you also see an unlikely hero that you don't know much about, that's environmental storytelling around you is kind of saying like, this is hope. This is the one hope that this story in this universe has with Marcus, and it's all told through this, the world's crumbling beneath you or around you, and it really gives the view of people, humanity, really like Marcus is doing in the trailer, have just been running for the past 14 years.
Right.
Without even bringing up really any story details with it. So, but I think that's, if looking back on it now, there's a few game trailers or game advertisements that really sold games so perfectly, and I think that's probably, I mean, you put that on, if there's a Mount Rushmore of that shit, like, that easily goes up there. I think that's,
I mean,
in marketing, just in marketing and entertainment in general, I think people show that whenever you're trying to market a new franchise, a new movie series, whatever, you know, whatever have you, but I mean, it's the perfect element of how impactful a score or soundtrack can be, mixed with just this environmental storytelling and what's shown around you, more than, almost like less is more in terms of dialogue and what's being told.
Absolutely. And, you know, this goes for every single one of the Gears trailers. They've just done a fantastic job over the years of making trailers that just are incredible. They set the right mood with the music. In the Gears of War 2 trailer, Dom's sitting there leaning against a tank, looking at a picture of him and Maria. I mean, like, they've always done such a good job of capturing what you were to expect in essence in the game, but without giving away like any goods, basically. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, for sure. What do you think, Adam?
I mean, it definitely always manages to kind of capture that somber, almost hopeless, maybe not hopeless, but it's definitely bleak tone in all the marketing. It's been pretty consistent throughout the years. I will say that on the surface of it, it's almost a little bit dissonant with the actual tone of the games. Because if you just look at someone playing Gears of War for a couple minutes, you'll be like, oh, this is kind of just like sort of action-packed, very like action movie type tone going on. But I mean, under the surface, it's always had that undercurrent of distress and kind of the hopeless situation that the cogs are in.
It always seems like it painted, you were only ever really shown the surface, but there was such a deeper, it's an egg. You see the shell of it, you don't know what, you slowly can see once you crack that shell, the contents and how actually intricate it is.
Right. And Gears has always had that stuff going on under the surface, and I'm glad the marketing was able to capture it because, if you were to just look at a couple minutes of gameplay taken from any given section, it wouldn't be that clear that there's more complex stuff going on underneath.
Oh yeah, for sure. I totally agree. It's where less is more is sometimes so impactful that it really can drive something that you're shown Marcus, but you're not shown, the Coal Train, baby. You're not shown Dom. Right. You're not shown any of that. All these characters who actually are very, very deep layered. And, as the series goes on, especially Dom's character arc throughout the whole series in 2, I mean, it's and we're not going to touch on plots and narrative spoilers, just because I want people to play these games. And especially leading into Gears 5 this fall, that we'll definitely be covering pretty extensively, I'm sure. But I want this to be not a tease, but something that incentivizes you to play these games, because I think it's one of the best examples in Xbox's catalog of strong storytelling and gameplay meshed together. But moving away from overall narrative and things like that for a little bit, I want to dive into one of Gears' other huge tentpoles, multiplayer. Probably sticking more with Mike, because I know you played a lot of competitive multiplayer with us at one point, and I say a lot. So I want to bring this up to you and kind of ask you this question. With Gears multiplayer, it really is unlike any other multiplayer game out there, at least from first release until kind of cover-based shooters started to become the norm. But it really, I mean, even to this day, it's still kind of like nothing out there. Nobody's perfected it like both Epic did at one point and now the Coalition. What do you think sticks out or stuck out at one point with this multiplayer experiences that kept you coming back for more compared to other games? When you were, balls deep in Halo 2, Halo 3, what was dragging you away from those games and those experiences that you invested hours in to go and said, oh, I'm going to pop in Gears of War. It's scratching this itch, and only this can, satisfy that.
Right. So Gears did a lot of great things. For reference, you're talking about the cover-based shooters. Gears is first released on November 7th, 2006. I probably got it maybe 2 or 3 days after it released because I couldn't get a ride to go pick it up. So I went and picked it up, and putting it in for the first time with Adam and getting to play some of the campaign with him, like the couch co-op, just unlike anything you've ever experienced. Just delving into an Xbox 360 game like that, because Halo 3 hadn't been released yet. So you played Halo 2 on couch co-op, and you kind of got the art style or whatever, and then you get into Gears of War, and you really start to see what Xbox 360 has to offer. The cover-based shooters, as you said, was a different thing that people weren't really used to. For reference, that game came out on November 7th, I think, or we talked about that. Yeah, November 7th, 2006. And Rainbow Six Vegas comes out on November 21st, 2006. And they were similar in the taking cover behind things, you can blind fire, things of that nature. And both games were competitive in the MLG sphere for a little bit. But, what really got a lot of people on the Gears of War train was the fact that it was different than most other games that anyone had ever played before. It was kind of a palate cleanser from your traditional FPS with the over-the-shoulder third person, and then you could hold in left trigger and kind of aim down your gun. Well, to me, what kept me going back to Gears of War was the high skills like ceiling that Gears of War 1 offered.
Mhm.
While there was some issues with like peer-to-peer hosting being really advantageous for people,
Mhm.
it still brought a sense of like there was a lot of competition there because the skill gap was all like basically you could do this little maneuver where you would wall bounce, where you could like kind of like use your stick, hold it towards a wall, press A to take cover, and then you could kind of like bounce off of it. Like if there were walls close to each other, you could kind of slide to each wall. And while you were mid slide, you could shoot your shotgun. So you could kind of utilize that. But
Mhm.
moreover, just the hip fire of the shotgun was a really skill based thing that people that didn't put time and effort into the game to learn how to shoot their shotgun over the shoulder like that without taking the time to aim in, like you could tell the better players from the worst players there. And then also like just like the gore, the exploding corpses that you would get when you got a perfect shotgun shot on someone.
Oh, when you
like,
chainsawed somebody too?
Yeah. It's just like when you're playing Execution, which was the competitive game type at the time,
Mm-hmm.
which is the game type where I could lancer someone across the map, but when they went down, I couldn't kill them from across the map.
Mm-hmm.
Like you had to go and actually execute them. So it promoted a lot of like teamwork, trading, bouncing back and forth. Like one person goes in and starts fighting and the other person comes in and kind of baits and trade. It was a lot of bait and trades in that, like bait and switches in that game, which is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
It's very inducive to teamwork, but also like the sniping in that game is what got me. Like you could do some crazy things with the
Oh
sniper
my
in
god,
Gears
that
of War.
sniper! Ooh.
Yeah, and I have some clips from like the Gears of War remastered edition
Mhm.
where it's just like unbelievable shots, and you could hit people mid combat roll, you could hit people mid sprint, you could do some crazy things, and the headshots in that game were so awesome. The sound that it made and everything. I mean, that's what really brought me back to Gears, and just like the teamwork aspect of it. But back in Gears 1, it was 4v4 like in Halo and in Rainbow Six. I mean, it was all 4v4, so the maps were just like, I didn't even get into talking about the map. Maps were pretty much all symmetrical, which is inducive to teamwork and skill.
Mhm.
It was like a great multiplayer experience. It was an interesting place to be as far as competitive. I wasn't into it to the point where I was traveling to play in tournaments, but
Mhm.
in 2007, they get the full MLG season treatment. They get like 5 events
Mhm.
and a national championship, so 6 total events. Overall, MLG has pumped in about $1 million into a prize pool for that game.
And at that time too, they're looking at that as probably like their blue chip. Like,
I mean, yeah, Halo 2 was still the game, but
Oh,
this was a
absolutely.
nice side piece. You know what I mean?
And that's what I mean. That they have their juggernaut. They have
Right.
Halo. Halo is, like you were saying in our previous episode, Halo is the shit at that time. That is
right.
That's their bread and butter, and that's their king. That's what they're going to run with, and they think is going to lead them into the next 10 years. But they probably, I would imagine from what you're saying, because I wasn't as deep into... I played Gears a lot for the campaigns, but I also played, Horde mode, and I did play multiplayer, but not as on a competitive level as you did. But
Right.
you being more tuned into it, to me, you saying that, this really seemed like they were seeing like, holy shit, we might have one of the best 1-2 punches in competitive gaming moving forward.
Absolutely. And what was even better for them is it was on the Xbox system, just like Halo.
Mhm.
So they were purchasing, like MLG as a company was investing in Xbox 360s as fast as they could buy them because they knew Halo 3 was coming.
Mhm.
So why not run another tournament? Like they ran Rainbow Six Vegas at the time, and they ran Gears of War at the same time they were running Halo 2 tournaments because Halo 2 was being played on the original Xbox, right?
Yeah.
So it only makes sense for them to kind of do that. And, that's just Gears 1. Of course, Gears 2 and Gears 3 had a little bit of like a marred, like MLG kind of dropped it. Different tourney organizers kind of ran it. It was kind of a weird situation.
Mhm.
But I mean, all the way up to present day, you're talking about the past few years, the Gears Pro Circuit has seen open tournaments with $250,000 prize pools running over the past 2 years. Like every 6 months, there's a huge tournament going on. So while it's a bit of a niche market and a niche game when it comes to the terms of like competitive,
Mhm.
they have a very dedicated developer and pumping money into the scene to make sure that it survives.
Yeah.
And that's what all games need. So, I mean, it's just like the multiplayer experience that it offered was one of a kind. And I think that's the thing that really carried Gears of War and carried the popularity of it from even casual players. Like, I know you guys didn't play it competitively, but even from a casual point of view, you have to admit admit that it was a very different experience that most people had never experienced before. And you really could only get the experience you get from Gears of War from that game. Mm-hmm. There's no other game that really comes to mind that, you get that experience from. And I mean, we're talking like, I would play as Coltrane most of the time when I was playing Gears of War, and you would hit a headshot with the sniper and Coltrane just starts talking shit immediately. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, woo! As soon as you hit the headshot, you know what I mean? Like, the little bit of like what, you would get audio cues from your player, that would really hype up the plays that you made too. It was just such a great game.
It almost embodied what was actually being said from the person holding the controller.
Absolutely. Like I mean, it was like almost like an extension of me.
If you hit a fucking headshot, you're definitely going to be like, I'm feeling it right now. Like you
exactly.
You hit a headshot, hurry up, flip back, do your dive back, and then tag another head. Like, you're going to be talking shit. So that also, like, it gave players, it seems like, an extension into the actual game. Not just, and this is no shot at Halo, but you're all playing as, you could change Chief's armor set sometimes and do different things. But outside of Firefight, a lot of players they had proximity chat, but their actual game character was just generic Chief, 1, generic Chief 2. Like,
exactly.
There was no, this gave gamers a voice that was almost felt personalized. At least,
like you could pick your personality you wanted to play. Mm-hmm. Whether it be like, I mean, we'll talk about this a little bit later when we get into the campaign, but player 2's being able to be Dom, what I mean, like that type of thing. And with Gears, like, just one more thing on the multiplayer before we move on is like they utilized the Halo idea of leaving weapons on the map, and they did the same exact formula. Sniper was in a location, sometimes some of the maps had 2 snipers, kind of like Halo. Boom shot would be in a central location, kind of like the rocket launcher, or the torque bow would be somewhere central. Like the map canals, you had 2 snipers on the top bridges and you had torque bow in the bottom middle, and both teams had grenades. And it was tactical in a way that you had to work as a team to get the torque bow, and you could use the grenades effectively to get the torque bow. And the snipers would, like the sniper duels you would have on these maps, because both teams could have a sniper. Just unbelievable. Like, you'd give the best player on your team the sniper rifle in Gears of War, and the rounds would be 3 minutes, and you're like, well, for the first minute and a half, 2 minutes, we're sitting and we're letting to see if our sniper could make a pick. And I mean, like, that's tactical, because you'd like put some covering fire down, you would watch your lanes, like teammates would go to cover and you could watch your lanes and call out what was happening. But by and large, you were waiting for your teammate with a sniper to get a pick before you started, we're gonna like, you'd start grouping up and it'd be like a minute and you're like, okay, what's the game plan? Canals. Okay, well, we're going to push low, we're going to push the right side of the map. Let's start building up to kind of utilize that, and we'll have someone watch the flank on the top bridge. We'll watch someone watch the flank, right? Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, you'd wait and that sniper would get a pick and it's like, go, like jailbreak, like everybody forward, you know what I mean? Because we can trade this out. Because that's what it was with competitive Gears. As soon as you got the numbers 4v3, it was, let's push in and let's trade it. So one guy dies, that you have a teammate right there that can just trade that kill immediately, and you can just trade down. Mm-hmm. And that also was inducive to one player, being a 1v3 and just popping off and hitting 3 huge shotgun shots and winning your team the round. And it was just, the excitement that game provided was just, I mean, it was genuine and pretty much like homegrown from just the type of game that it was. Like, the competitive nature of it just breathed through the game, and it didn't have to force anything to be competitive. It's just the way it was.
Oh yeah. Oh, I'm sure. Now I want to kind of circle back on what you started to pull a thread there for a second, that I really want you to touch on that. I want Adam to kind of include on this, because him and I have both been player 2s in this game with you.
Yeah, absolutely.
We both, and him and I have played together, on campaign. But I really want you guys I want to hear what you guys think. You brought up something saying what Gears did well was... I mean,
couch co-op was the best thing.
Oh my
Gears
God,
offered.
yeah. And as we kind of move into campaign now, one of the best things that I think they did, what you talked on, was it gave player 2 not... like when you go into a Halo 2 lobby at that time, and you're doing, or Halo 3, and you're doing, casual social playlists, and you're just having somebody be a guest on your account, it's just, Toy Soldier and Toy Soldier parentheses 1.
Right.
Where in this case, though, Now, player 2, who's doing co-op with you, they're getting to be Dom. They're getting to be, another character. They're getting an actual
Well,
voice.
they get a face and they get a personality with a name.
They get somebody that they can attach to. So I want to hear what you and Adam's experiences with this. I mean, and I'll chime in too throughout it, but I want to hear what you guys think since you guys first, played it together co-op. And like you were saying, gave player 2 a face and a name, something that they can also, while you're being Marcus Phoenix, where they could be Dom Santiago as well. Like, so I want to hear what you guys think about that.
Yeah, I'll just let my player 2. I mean, I had the Xbox 360, so so he was like he had no choice. Like it was my system, so I'll let my player 2 take it. Adam, go ahead.
So here's the thing about playing as player 2. Usually you were Dominic, but I think in other sections you could be a different
like
character.
Baird, right? Like it would be like Coltrane and Baird. So yeah.
Specifically, I know in Gears 3 you played a lot of sections as the porting cast. So you might be Baird, you might be, I think in Gears 3 you could play as Anya and, some of the Carmines. Regardless, like when you played as those other characters, like you guys have been saying, you weren't just a clone of the main player character. You were a distinct person, and you fulfilled a different role in the gameplay too. It wasn't just about the narrative differences. It was like, oftentimes you would come to a fork in the road and you would have to decide, okay, who's going to go which way? And maybe you'd be clearing some apartment buildings. One of you would go high and one would go low, and there would be different combat encounters depending on, which side you took. Maybe the one of you has to go up and then lay down some covering fire so the other person can move into a position, or maybe you have to clear the enemy out before someone can, get your other guy to move up or whatever. So it wasn't just a distinction in your character, it was also your role.
It adds such a dynamic to it that it actually gave you a reason to, it wasn't just at all times mindlessly killing. It was, especially after you played through, because Gears, and just speaking for myself, but I'm sure you guys agree with this statement, it's one of those campaigns that you beat it the first time, you want to go back, you want to beat it again.
Well, I mean, you want to play it on hardcore, or you want to get like insane,
insane, to get, for a multitude of reasons, but mostly because it's just so damn satisfying. But it gave you those options of, like Adam was saying, hey, you come to a fork in the road. Who wants to go which way? Who's suited best to handle these, especially the second time around, who's suited best to handle these situations based on your playstyles?
I think another part that is vital to the success of Gears of War and the hook that it puts into players that play through the campaign mode and makes you want to pick up Gears 1, Gears 2, Gears 3 and play through them is the bond that Dom and Marcus have as best friends is really special. And it's something that you share with someone that you play couch co-op with. By and large, back in that time, when you were playing couch co-op with someone, it was one of your best friends. It was your brother. It was like Dom and Marcus, or Marcus and Dom, for all intents and purposes, are basically brothers. Like, they're not brothers by blood, but through war and through friendship, that they've become brothers. And that's something that your couch co-op mate and you share. Like, you guys are basically brothers, or guy and girl, whatever. I mean, whatever. But like, you guys were best friends and brothers, and you get to play as best friends / brothers and save the world. And that's something that I think is just so well done by the team over at Epic that made Gears. And
it's another one of those examples that could be looked at as art imitating life.
Absolutely. And then going through Gears 2, seeing Dom's trials and tribulations and the struggle Dom goes through. And then Gears 3, what happens in Gears 3, just like the tear jerking and everything that you guys will experience if you guys haven't played through the campaigns of these games yet on Game Pass is just unbelievable. And something that kind of put an exclamation point on it is the fact that there's years between these games coming out back then that I got to play. Now, through Game Pass, you get to download all of them and just run right through them if you really wish. But the time that it took to get these games and get through them really puts an exclamation point on these experiences and on your feelings as a person as you're playing through this. But I mean, it's just like, it's unbelievable the brotherhood that you get through the game and the person that you get to play with in couch co-op. And it's the best way to play the game. You can play through by yourself, but playing with someone else through couch co-op is just unbelievable. It's so fun.
Yeah, I totally agree. I want to kind of going off another one of the threads you pulled out with, tear-jerking moments and things like that. And like I said, I don't want to go into too many spoiler details because I want people to play these games. I want people to experience the narrative, especially the first three. Judgment, not necessarily so much. It gave a lot of, nice little, lore details and backstory things, but overall, if you want the best Gears experience, I say 1 through 3, then 4, going into this new, trilogy, probably.
Yeah, my comment on that for multiplayer is like 1, 3, maybe 4, 2. Like 2's multiplayer, they got into that trap that 343 gets into with Halo, and it's like they wanted to change all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, wow, we did all this stuff so cool. What if we did all this other stuff?
Yeah,
that would be awesome. And it's like, no, dude, it's not. It's not, okay?
If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Exactly.
Sure, add those things. Add upon that.
And fix it.
But keep the foundation. You got to keep the foundation.
Yeah, there was a lot of things about Gears 2 multiplayer that was just like, bah. But
no, I kind of want to.
That's fine.
And while you bring that up, I kind of where I'm leading to next. Like I said, I don't want, if it's single player based, I don't want a ton of spoiler details, but I still want to touch on big moments.
Absolutely.
From you guys. But what do you think, in terms of Gears, for you, what was the longest lasting effect it had on you? Like, this could be multiplayer, campaign, like, what moment in Gears really hit home for you? Like, for me, for example, I go back to Gears 2, and I thought from a multiplayer end, Horde mode was dope. Because I thought, like, I love that concept of it's you against however many, and
that was another couch co-op thing. That was fun.
That you've now seen evolve in Gears 4, and now it's a huge component to the Gears franchise.
Right.
But also with 2, I mean, from a campaign moment, the moment with Dom and Maria, I mean, whew, that kind of goes off, Gears 3's Dom moment, the big one, but it lended it so well. Like, that was one of those things that I remember exactly when I was playing it, what I was doing, like, and when it hit me. It's one of those gaming moments that I'm like, this is some shit I've never seen in a $60 video game before. Like, emotion-wise, from storytelling, narrative, the cinematography that was displayed with it, it's one of those things that it was a first, more or less. Now,
right.
You've seen it now in a multitude of games and things like that, emotional pools like that, but for, what was it, 2008 that dropped, I believe? Yeah, 2008, early 2009, you're playing this still. It's one of those it's one of those things you're like, where the hell else am I seeing this outside of, Halo 3 and, a few others, but... What do you guys think? Adam, what do you think? What's your big pulls and lasting effects with Gears?
So, Gears always felt like it had something going on that nothing else did. It had that gritty atmosphere, I guess, that gritty tone that, like, other games, they were gritty at the time, yeah, but I guess in a kind of different way. It wasn't just the art direction, although Gears' art direction was incredibly, like, industrial and grimy, and everything was, like, heavy and bulky, it was very distinctive. But it delivered on that tone in the story, the situation of the narrative. It delivered on it in the gameplay, and how, like, I mean... It was entertaining to have, like, the gore splatters when you would get, like, a really sick Gnasher shotgun kill in multiplayer or whatever. But it's
almost like the Mortal Kombat effect. Like, it's cool. Yeah. It's a nice little added effect that a lot of games weren't doing.
But, like, depending on how you look at it, it's also kind of like the cheapness of life in that setting. It's like you could get fucking chunked up at any minute by one of these.
Exactly. Or you could get krilled.
Yeah.
Oh,
just wait for Gears 1 on Insane. Those of you that haven't played, that's like Jackal Sniper level in
legendary difficulty on Halo 2. But go ahead.
Too soon. It's been 55 years. Like that old lady in the Titanic. It's been 90 or whatever.
It's been 84 years.
But it's still too soon. Go ahead.
Yeah. But it just really delivers on that really, like, dark tone through all the different aspects of the game. And I feel like not many things can really compare to that. And yet, you have these heroes who are fighting for something. It's almost really for their own like mere survival. There's not a lot of like ideology at play in those games. It doesn't have like a great political message other than just like, hey, we have this like external existential threat that is going to destroy us.
Mhm.
So, and the odds are always stacked against the cogs, but somehow they always manage to pull it out. So, I don't know, that's something about Gears that's always kind of stuck with me. It's always been a game about the underdogs.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, even through like as the series develops, like their situation gets worse and worse. But they
Oh
never
my
stop
God.
fighting. It's like apocalypse after apocalypse. Like
Right.
you thought last episode was bad. Well, guess what? In this one, there's no dry land anymore that's like inhabitable, and then we all just live on this boat, because the whole world is overrun with these aliens, or I guess they're actually native to the planet.
Sarah.
That's a whole different other story.
Yeah, that's a whole different lore thing. Adam, what do you think? Like you talked like just briefly about being like the odds stacked up against the cog and the Gears. What do you think that they did so well storytelling wise that set it apart from Halo? Because on the Xbox they always had Big Brother kind of looming. What do you think they did differently and better in some ways, if they did do it better? You know what I mean?
What do you mean about Big Brother looming?
Like Halo, like there's comparisons that can be made. Like
Oh,
Halo's
yeah.
story is always Master Chief against the world. Well, Gears is Dom and Marcus in the team of Gears against the world. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it does kind of tend to be perceived as standing in Halo's shadow. But I will say, Gears has a much better. It just has a more diverse supporting cast, I think. Halo, we talked about in the last episode, everything in Halo's story hinges on very few personalities and their incredible impact on this large sweeping conflict. You've got the Chief and Cortana, you've got the Prophets, the Arbiter, a couple of commanding officers in the USMC, and some other background characters.
Right.
In Gears, you had this wide supporting cast of the cogs from like your squad mates that you actually traveled with during the course of the campaigns. You had the commanders who you only really talk to over the radio, like Hoffman. Like he appears a couple times in front of you, but mostly he's a voice over a radio giving you orders. Same thing with Anya until she joins the story physically in Gears 3. And just a lot of different personalities kind of playing off of each other, bouncing off each other, sometimes coming into like internal conflict, but mostly all using each other's strengths to kind of face this greater threat. And there's a couple of important characters on the Locust side as well. But yeah, I'd say Gears' main distinction from Halo narrative-wise is just how it really focuses on a wide protagonist cast.
Right.
That gives the player, ample opportunity to identify with all kinds of different characters. It's like, oh, well, if you don't like our three main characters, then too bad for you. I think Halo does a good job. I'm not trying to say that it's like too narrow, but with Gears, you have a much wider net. Go ahead, Travis.
I was just going to say, and this is kind of I don't want to say it's not an off-topic question by any means, but it's kind of an offshoot question that, we're talking about cinematic, we're talking about narrative. The one thing, because I feel pretty safe, we're all big movie fans, all right? So, and we always hear about, video games can translate to movies. When there's a movie made about a video game, it just doesn't translate. And a lot of times I agree with that because games are it's such a longer lasting experience that a movie, you're in there for on average an hour and a half to 2 hours. You're in and out. A lot of things are condensed. Where games, you actually live in that world for that time. You're much more immersed because it's an interactive experience. There's a lot more time, especially, in games like Elder Scrolls and games like Horizon Zero Dawn that I just played, that are open world experiences that just don't translate well taking a 30-hour story and smashing it down to 2 hours. But with all this talk, and I bring this up because there's been a lot of talks of a Gears movie has been in development, or development hell, one would say, for really since 2007-ish. But recently it's been brought back up, and a lot of tires have been kicked with it, and it's kind of been, not fast-tracked, but a fire's been lit under a lot of people's ass to get this movie out because of Gears 5 and whatnot, and now people are starting to actually catch on to it. And even, with big name actors like Dave Bautista, who literally, you look at Marcus Phoenix, you're like, holy shit, that sumbitch is Dave Bautista. Like, he is the one character that kind of sticks out, or the one actor that you're like, that this role's been typecast for him for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
But
Right, like it's basically been created for him to play.
right, like, and that was, as a wrestling fan growing up, when I first saw Gears, I'm like, did they model that after Batista? Like, so, but...
It would be weird to hear him in the film, though, not voiced by John DiMaggio.
Exactly. No, 100%. I agree. But with Gears being like how we talked about before with, at one point about their campaigns, they're kind of similar to Halo, where, you're in and out for sure under 10 hours, unless you're playing like insane difficulty or something like that. But normally for a normal playthrough, you're around 6 to 8 hours, which comparative to a lot of games, that's short. Especially most modern games, as the cost of games really, is shockingly not gone up because of development costs and whatnot. People are wanting more bang for their buck out of games, but you look at Gears, and they consistently stayed around that 6 to 8 hour range, where if you're looking at making a Gears of War movie, do you think Gears of War could be that one movie or that one franchise that transfers well to film because of not only, it's kind of max 8-9 hour playthrough that you're doing, but not only that, but the level of cinematic that we've talked about with its narrative depth, but at the same time telling it in such an easy, relatable, to an extent from character development way. Do you think this could be the one game that kind of breaks that mold of another, like when the Assassin's Creed movie came out and nobody gave a shit about it for the most part? Like, it was a flop and it didn't do much. Or Tomb Raider recently, it came out and nobody really cared, to be quite frank. Do you think this could be the one game franchise that really transitions well into that 2-hour format?
Oh boy, video game movies are a big can of worms, but
yeah, they are. And this is just surface level talk. I'm just curious because this is a relevant topic that has come up recently.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you were going to pick any game franchise to go with, Gears isn't a bad choice. There are certainly worse things you could pick, and not to get too deep into the weeds about the challenges of adapting to film, but like, Gears' a story, if you just take like the story of Gears 1,
mm-hmm.
if you broke that out into acts, it's already broken into acts.
Right,
there's like 5 acts in Gears. But if you broke that out into kind of a scene by scene of how would that game play out if the events were just shot, from different camera angles and from all the action, not under the control of a player, but a director.
Mm-hmm.
I think it honestly could work. And I think it'd be pretty enjoyable to watch. Going from breaking, not to get too deep into spoilers for Gears 1, but going from breaking Marcus out of prison in the very beginning
mm-hmm.
and setting the stage and everything that follows through on that story, I think you could have something pretty watchable.
Yeah, and definitely from, you think of, you look at a lot of major blockbuster movies that are put out today, I think from setting and, like I was saying before, environmental storytelling and things like that, I think it translates well. What do you think, Mike?
I think it has the potential to
mm-hmm.
do well, and I think that the new CGI, like a lot of the problems with past video game movies that have kind of created this negative aura surrounding these movies, is like Mortal Kombat Annihilation, where they were like, wow, dude, we have this really cool new CGI thing that we can do these really weird like edits with. Let's try to use it. And they just used it way too much.
It's
and
campy almost to an extent. And
right. Like Mortal Kombat could have just like benefited from using way more martial arts. Like sure, like Scorpion and Sub-Zero have their abilities. Every one of the characters have their abilities. But if they would have just really utilized martial arts and used fighting in that sense, the movie would have been a lot better. Like, the plot's there. It's not like they had to go over the top with the plot. Like, it's already made for them. Like,
especially leaning, as you're saying, like, leaning into, with Mortal Kombat, for example, they tried to bring that up in, they're presenting the story of Mortal Kombat in almost what they're trying to make a real level. But they lean too much. They're saying, oh, they're keeping this foot in reality based, but they're leaning too much into parody with it. And
Yeah.
and that's why I think what you're saying, like, Gears either could do one or two things. Like, if it is CGI based, like, if their CGI so good these days, but at the same time, like, people use it
Like, is
so
it going to be
poorly.
like the movie Avatar? Like,
Yeah.
like you know what I'm saying? Like, are they going to
100%.
use Dave Bautista's likeness and make it like Avatar? Like,
Mhm.
sure, I could be on board for it.
Yeah.
But I think what the issue that these movies run into, and I agree with both you and Adam.
Mhm.
I think that it could work, and I think it probably would, because the story is very good. And like I said, like, you could go the Avatar route and make these characters in likeness of real life people, have them voice act,
Mhm.
because Bautista's done it. Dave Bautista's voice acted. You know what I mean? So
Oh, yeah.
it's not like he couldn't. But I'm just saying, like, I think that the market that they're trying to make these games for are someone like me, who I'd rather just play the game.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
I'll go sit in a theater for 2 hours and watch it, but I'd rather just turn the Xbox on and play myself and
Mhm.
make the movie myself. And I think that's an issue that they have to try to market this movie to everyone. Because, like, if you just say we're making a Gears of War movie, and people who have never played it are going to be like, okay, why the fuck do I want to go see that movie?
Mhm.
Tell me why I should go see that movie.
And
Whereas, like, the gamers are just gonna be like, I'm just gonna fucking sit here and play. I already bought the game. Who cares?
Why would I want to see that movie?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
I-
So
I will
It's-
say it on that point, Mike. Travis, I know you've played a little bit of Persona 5, right?
Mhm.
When they started making the like animated series adaptation of that game,
Mhm.
I definitely had that feeling of like, wow, I'm just watching the events of the game play out exactly
like, I
as
could
they
just
did.
play instead of
Yeah.
wasting my time watching. I could just play.
And you run the huge risk of this happened with P5A. Like, everything about the quality of the animation series
Mhm.
was lower than the production quality of the game itself. Like, there were animated cutscenes in like full, very stylized anime art in the game, and they look better than the TV series.
Yeah.
So
No.
it could end up being an inferior product.
Yeah, and I agree definitely with that statement. And kind of going off, I know I mentioned the Assassin's Creed movie earlier. At least with that, Ubisoft at least came out and said, like, we don't expect this to do well critically. What we want this to do is to put Assassin's Creed in front of more people's eyes. And, like, I respect that. That's wanting to get your brand seen by more people who aren't, especially nowadays with gaming kind of having this resurgence in the people who've grown up with games like us. We're still playing those. We're seeing those as viable entertainment outlets and mediums that we're choosing to do over watching a movie or watching TV or whatever, you know. It's starting to become a very viable choice of how you spend your time with entertainment, which I can respect then, trying to get that in. But a lot of times we see it where, we're trying to tell this story, like the Tomb Raider movie. It actually wasn't too bad. My fiance and I went to see it, like, on, like, a Tuesday night or something. Like, we had nothing else to do, and I'm like, fuck it, let's go do it. We'll spend the $10 to go do something or whatever. It wasn't actually too bad, but it was one of those deals of, we just want to get that brand in front of more people.
Right.
But, and that's the one thing I can say to the opposite end, though, with Gears now. They've came out and said, the directors came out, I believe it was the director or the screenwriter, has came out and said, listen, we can't tell Gears' story to that, extent without people who have played the game. They already know what they're getting. What we want to do is, like, we can't do a Gears story unless we're telling it in an alternate reality. So it's like a new Gears story you're getting, which could be somebody's first Gears story in general for everybody who's played, but it also gives the newcomers the same thing of, oh, well, now that I know what Gears of War is, oh shit, this is based on a video game franchise. Like, wait, it's different than this?
Give them something original.
If this really, struck a chord with me, I gotta go back and play those games.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
So
I could see how that would work out.
Give them something original that still relates to the original property, but that is
absolutely.
It's new. It's not just a replication of something they've already seen before.
No, and that's what I think a lot of video game movies end up doing, and they end up just being cut and paste kind of from their source material, which I could see the benefits of some of them, like, A Last of Us or an Uncharted to an extent, where they are basically cinematic events played out in front of you, for the most part. I don't want to say walking simulators, are a little more detailed than that, but it's very much a very cinematic level that you may just want to copy and paste that because it translates so well that it could just become a movie franchise in itself. But that's a different time, different place. I want to move into a new segment as we're starting to wrap up the show here, called An Achievement in Itself. And this is where we'll kind of go over just some... Me personally, I fucking love achievements. I love trophies. I love all that shit. Like, I love that satisfaction of getting that little bing, and it pops up like, oh yeah, you got this. It's just one of those, like... It's like people who play Destiny or games as a service who go back and grind and do different things. It's just an incentive that scratches that itch, that intangible. But I think Gears kind of falls in being a good test case for this new segment because it had some of the hardest achievements out there. And I'm talking about the seriously achievements. Mike, correct me if I'm wrong. Didn't you have the seriously achievement in Gears 1 where you killed 10,000 people?
I never did that.
You never got that? I thought you had that one.
No, I think I got to like 9100 or something, and I just was like, no, there's no way I'm getting 10K.
I could have swore that you had.
I had a friend that had it.
Maybe that.
And it was the coolest. Like, you got a gamer pick and everything.
Yeah.
It was honestly awesome.
I wish more, and you saw it later on the later end of the Xbox 360's life. You started getting more like with certain achievements. You got avatar items and things like that, like little perks that are more than just a, hey, you got 50 gamer score, like which is cool for people like me. Like, I just like doing that. I like checking off boxes. I like doing that stuff. But I mean, it's just wild. Some of the shit that you had to do with Gears Seriously achievements, which technically you still do in some of them, but like they always kept fucking bumping up. They kept going up and up and up. Like in Gears 2, you had to kill 100,000 enemies across any mode, like just across all modes, which when I first read that, because I didn't really remember Gears 2's Seriously achievement, and I thought it was just 10,000 enemies. I'm like, oh, they kind of dumbed that down. I'm like, oh no, that's an extra zero. That is 100,000 fucking people you gotta kill. But it just kept going up. Like, you had to reach every Onyx medal in Gears 3, which is wild. And then Gears 4 was like the fucking pinnacle. Like, you had to do this whole fucking laundry list of everything. Like, you had to complete the campaign on Insane. You had to reach re-up 10, earn all the ribbons, earn a rank in one core and one comp playlist. Like, you had to do so many fucking things with this that it's just wild. And that's why I think it's, like the thing said, an achievement in itself with, if you're getting one of these, like, pack it up. You're done. Like, you can't get any better than that.
Right.
But that's one thing that I think it did well. Gears did well whenever achievements and trophies and things like that were first starting to kind of be incorporated in at the Xbox 360 era, that it really kind of was that games as a service model of it's giving incentives of players to go back and get, like you were saying, they got a gamer pick out of it. They got different things out of it that weren't just one or two. Oh, it's just you got 10 gamer score, yay!
And it wasn't just a gamer pick. Like the Gears 1 one was Marcus with like fire wings.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's like walking with a lancer down by his side, and there was like fire coming out from behind him with like made him like have angel wing.
Yeah,
like that's badass.
Yeah,
and you had it for all of Xbox 360. So anytime anyone looked at your profile, they got to see that. Like that's awesome.
They knew you were big dick in it. Like you were.
Yeah, they knew you meant serious business.
Yeah. We're gonna transition into our last segment. As we did before, we're gonna play Cash It, Pass It, or Ass It. And this is gonna be like we did before. And this is for the whole series. We're talking MCC is one contained game, but we're talking Gears in general. We can keep out Judgment. It's available if you want it. If you did Gears 1, did Gears 2, whatever, and you want to get that extra little layer of story, cool. But mainline Gears of War, we're gonna play Cash It, Pass It, or Ass It. So I'll start out on my end personally, and then let you guys talk, just because I'm kind of in and out with this. To me, this is a cash it, like, no-brainer. A lot of these games are dirt cheap to go buy in general. You can go to a GameStop, you can go to wherever, and you could get them for like $5 a pop. And even Gears 4, we're talking, the newest one is like $10 at GameStop. It's one of those games that I would suggest just all these games just buying outright, because then you have them, you can play them whenever. I know at one point, when I bought Gears 4, I got a deal on the collector's edition for it was like $20 at Walmart or some shit. Like,
yeah,
I ended up, I love Steelbook cases, so I bought it for that mostly, but it included the first 4 Gears games in it, like Gears 1 through 3 and Judgment, like download codes for them. So like it's dirt cheap to get access to these games. To me, and from a financial side out of it, these games they're immaculate. I think these are amazing experiences. They hold up well. Playing through the Ultimate Edition of Gears in full recently, within the last like 6 months, like they hold up well. The story kicks just as much ass as it did 13 years ago, and it only gets better. The stakes keep getting higher. The gloom and doom keeps getting lower and lower. I guess it would be lower and lower to an all-time low where it's really about sacrificing and what you would do for the planet and your friends and things like that. Like it's a very great experience that I think all Xbox One and even Xbox 360, but we're talking Game Pass, Xbox One, PC. This is a cash it for me. So I'll open it up to Adam. I want to hear what you think.
This is a cash it for me for basically all the reasons you stated. You can get any of these games for pretty cheap, and I think they're worth revisiting. Same thing with Halo. Like, this is a campaign that you're going to want to come back to and comb through it again and again. You know, beat it on a harder difficulty, take a closer look at the story. Especially in Gears 1, I would like to go back over that and just kind of try to discover where the gaps were, because I think there might have been some cut content from that game. It seems like there were little cracks in the story where you're like, they transition pretty abruptly from one thing to the next.
And the Ultimate Edition is on Game Pass, and it is, if you want to go and buy the disc version of it, well, it's dirt cheap as well, but everything was made from, they kept the skeleton, I believe, of it, but every cutscene, every environment, every player model, it was made from the ground up again, and it is fucking stunning, if you ask me. That's how you remake and remaster a game from the ground up. Sorry to cut you off, but for that alone, for the price of that, I think play that one, and it includes a lot. But like you're saying as well, with cut content and whatnot.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a whole gold mine there, and you're not going to get through it just by having it on your Game Pass. You know, for your money's worth, just go ahead and buy it. It's a cash it from me. How about you, Mike?
This is a cash situation here for sure. I know we didn't even talk about it, which is completely an oversight on our part, which is our bad. But with Gears 1, Gears 2, Gears 3, Gears 4, it's a cash it for me. For the reasons that have already been stated, they're cheap. You're going to want to replay the multiplayer or the campaign multiple times. And in Gears 1, you might even want to go through and find all the COG tags.
Oh, hell
That's something that like is a collectible thing that is kind of fallen by the wayside. Like, there's collectibles in like Resident Evil games and things of that nature, but I feel like that's like a lost art in these games. So for me, it's a cash it for all the reasons that have been previously been stated by them. But also because the cool feeling of beating bosses in this game and beating these challenging puzzles are incredible, and you're gonna love it. So you're definitely gonna want to cash these games. But for those of us out there who might not have the cash to cash it, even though it's cheap, you're definitely gonna want to lease. Like I think when we categorize these games from here on out, I'm sure you can tell. But if we cash it, you bet your ass we're passing it, and you bet your ass we're not assing it. Yeah. We're cashing or passing it. So you definitely want to cash it, but you're passing it if that's your only option.
So what you're saying is these games deserve to stay on your hard drive. Like, do you think it's one? All right, let me rephrase that.
It depends on how limited your storage is.
Take storage out of it. Like, this is a game that you should have in your catalog of games, like, on a permanent basis.
Absolutely. Okay. Like, yeah, you should always have this game in hand. Like, I have it on disc version, and I'll pop it in the Xbox 360. If I want to play 1, 2, or 3, I'll play through it, so I don't have to install it on my Xbox, just because storage can be an issue for me. But you can quickly download these games. So yes,
the first couple you should make room on your, it's
you should make room on your hard drive for them. But if it's like I'm not going to play this game, I'm deleting it, at least you'll be able to reinstall it really fast.
Yeah, for sure. Well, with that being said, man, I think that puts a bow on it for right now. But, this series is not bookended. We're definitely going to be back with Gears 5 in the fall. That's one that I definitely want to do some deep dive coverage on. That might be a 2-parter even.
That might be like a stream the couch co-op on a Twitch channel type deal there, guys. So
absolutely.
Stay tuned for that.
Yes, absolutely, 100%.
Like webcam on all three of us being greasy, getting Chinese food, just being grease balls.
Absolutely. That sounds like a fucking hell of a time. But with that being said, guys,
We can review the Chinese place on the stream.
Yeah, it's perfect. And we'll just start doing pizza reviews in the middle of our street. Whatever. We'll just start doing it.
Hell, yeah, we'll go down to, what's that place by you, Adam, now?
China King, I think.
China King, yep. We'll go right down there. We'll demand to see the manager, and I want the full smorgasbord of everything. And we're going to go one by one, and we're just going to fucking eat it all. So, but with that being said, that's going to wrap it up for us this time. Once again, let me hear from my co-hosts here. We'll start with Adam. Adam, where can people find you? Where can people see you gaming? Where can they just get a hold of you?
If you want to get a hold of me, best place is probably on my Twitter handle at AC_Marshy. I have other accounts too, but Twitter is probably the best place to reach me if you're a fan.
Cool. Mike, what about you?
Yeah, so you're going to find me on Twitter at Toy Soldier, and the second O is going to be an X. So it's going to be TOYSXLDIER. You're going to find me on Twitch at twitch.tv/MP_Toy Soldier. You're going to find me on Xbox Live at LL Toy Soldier LL. And free to shoot me a message if you want me to review anything, or if I'm on Twitch, come in and talk to me and, say, hey, you know what? I really like this game on Game Pass. Why don't you guys do it next? And we'll listen to you and we'll see if we'll fit it in there and do a review on it for you guys.
Hell yeah, absolutely. And my name is Travis White. You can find me on Twitter at Travless _TRAVLESS_. And you can find me also twitch.tv/Travless_, same deal. And then on Xbox Live at just regular Travless. Easy and simple. So with that being said, guys, that's going to put a bow on this episode 2 of the Bonus Accessory Game Pass Gamescast. So with that being said, thank you for watching. Make sure to like, subscribe, everything, all that good social media bullshit. YouTube, we can be found at youtube.com/bonusaccessory. You can head on there, subscribe to the channel. Twitter, we're at Bonus Accessory, real nice and easy. We post new episodes every Friday on both YouTube, right now SoundCloud, which that can be found in the link to the description of this video, and audio podcast for audio only. We are currently under review status for Spotify and Apple Podcasts, so hopefully that churns out pretty well by the time this goes up and you're listening on there. With that being said, have a great day, great night, wherever you are, and keep gaming.